Hi everyone, I'm Randy Arrington and welcome to episode 88 of Page Valley Livin'. We're here today at a place I've been wanting to come to for quite a while. Has a lot of history here. We're at the White House Farm just off of Route 211 west of Luray, and they have 270 acres here, and there is a lot going on. They have some agricultural productions on a certain part of the acreage. They have a tree nursery and a riparian area that helps protect the health of the South Fork of the Shenandoah River. But one of the things we really want to talk about today is a structure that's been here for 2.5 centuries. It was built in 1760 by Martin Kaufman II and has been through many floods here next to the Shenandoah River. And we're going to be talking with Marie Pento, the executive director of the White House Farm Foundation, and Eric Sowers, project manager, about the rehabilitation of this old structure back from the 18th century. We're going to talk about what it took to get it looking this good and what else is going to be done throughout this 8 to 12 month construction period. They started rehabilitation back in August and are going to carry through, as we said, for about 8 to 12 months. So join us today for episode 88 of Page Valley Living as we talk about the rehab of the White House building here on the White House Farm. We'll be back in just a moment after a word from our sponsor. Hawksbill Assisted Living in Luray is now accepting new admissions. Hawksbill Assisted Living, powered by Valley Care Management, offers quality care at affordable rates, professionally trained staff, and veterans aid and attendance. Come visit Hawksbill Assisted Living, located near the beautiful Hawksbill Greenway in Luray. Call for a tour today or learn more at valleycaremanagement.com. Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 88 of Page Valley Living'. We're here today out at the White House Farm and we are recording today on Monday, September the 29th, and we'll be airing our show on Wednesday, October the 1st. And as we said earlier, we have here with us today Eric Sowers, who's our project manager, and Marie Pento, who is the executive director of the White House Farm Foundation. Thank you so much, both of you, for spending some time with us today.
Oh, you're welcome, sir.
So we want to start out talking about, thousands of people, maybe hundreds at least every day pass this property. And they look out and they see this beautiful home up here built in 1890, the brick house. They see the farm, which is so very well manicured. I think you're a lot to blame, not to blame, but to credit for that. It looks beautiful out here. And I don't think a lot of people realize what all is going on here. There are multiple entities going on. So let's talk about first agriculture. We can see the fields planted out here, and you told me earlier for my towny ignorance that it's soybeans that are being planted out here. Are you going to harvest those?
Yes, sir. We have 60 acres of land here that is agriculture that we lease out to different farmers in the county. Then we have another 60 acres here that is leased out to pasture land that we raise cows on and things like that. So we keep all that separated.
Okay. Very good. And you'd also told me that on the back side of the property, which the entire property here at White House Farm is 270 acres, that you've got a tree nursery back there. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. White House natives have been in operation since 2011. It's on currently 60 acres, and we have about 8,000 trees available for sale.
Very good, very good. And then another thing that is happening here is there's a riparian area along the South Fork of the Shenandoah River that folks that are traveling along 211 West out here pass as they go over the Nick Whittam Memorial Bridge, named after the deceased Stanley police officer who was fatally shot in the line of duty. But one of the important things about this riparian area, Marie, is the fact that it helps protect the health of the South Fork of the Shenandoah River.
Yeah, so this property is under a conservation easement that's designed to help with, protecting the land and the ecology. And one of the stipulations of that easement is maintenance of this 60-acre riparian area. So there can never be cattle or farming activities that occur in that area. It's all native meadows and woodlands, and that's to help the bank of the river be more stabilized. It helps with the health of the ecosystem, and that's something that's very important to be done out here for the river.
And you all actually went in and planted some trees there along the banks, did you not? Or at least looks like there's some planted trees as you go down Kaufman Mill Road here a little bit.
There are a few trees that have been planted, but especially up along the banks, those were there.
Okay.
Some of those really big sycamore trees and orange trees and other things that are down there were
And I believe you were
natural.
telling me earlier now that the brick house that we see behind us, built in 1890, is kind of used as a second home or vacation home for Scott Plein and his family, who is kind of the owners here along with the White House Farm Foundation. Is that correct?
Yep, so the Plein family are the landowners, and we hold a charitable license with the Plein family to do programming out here related to our mission, which is conservation, education, local history. But they're the primary landowner, and they're
Right.
the ones that are managing all of that.
So we have the Plein family who owns it, and we have the White House Farm Foundation, which is into the conservation and historical preservation. And then we've got two sort of separate agricultural
Yes, sir.
entities that run the crop portion and the nursery portion. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Very good, very good. Well, now we want to turn our attention over to the star of the show here. We're going to make our way a little bit over here, as we said earlier, to a house that was built in 1760, going back to 250 some years, built by Martin Kaufman II. And I think this is very interesting for locals because there used to be, of course, the Kaufman Mill here. And if you drive down Kaufman Mill Road, which comes right along this edge here between this house and the river, there's some old stone steps. I believe it used to be part of the mill or the house or something.
Yes.
There. I'm
The
right
foundation,
about that.
the foundation is still there at the end of the road. Yes, sir.
And we just had a letter to the editor in Page Valley News about the Kaufman family just had a reunion down there about a
Yeah.
month or two ago
That is
over
correct,
this
sir.
So we're gonna talk more about the rehab of this house more. But what can you tell me that I haven't already said a little bit about the history of this property? I believe the Plein family bought it in 2005, but obviously we said this house goes back further than the United States of America. Right? What can you tell me about it?
Well, the house was built, we believe, in 1760. That was part of the initial settlement of the valley by European settlers who come in around that time, and we're starting to kind of make farmsteads and different things out here. Martin Kaufman and his family, they were Mennonites. We believe this might have been used as a meeting house for Mennonite religious purposes.
Oh, wow.
During that time period. After 1760, they continued to use it as this meeting house and residence, and eventually it was sold to another family in 1820 time period, and that family undertook a major renovation. They wanted to kind of pretty it up and bring it up to the standards of that time. So that was when different elements like very intricate woodwork was added, different types of painting styles and molding. The ceilings were added in the second floor, the plaster ceilings. So that renovation was a major part of the history. And then moving forward to the 1930s, we believe it was involved in the rural electrification of that period. So there is some wiring that was installed at that time that we're going to
wow.
try to keep. So it's important for this project. We want to show all of those different time periods and the different families that live there and everyone, every layer of history that there is on this property.
It's interesting that you talk about the German immigrants and the Mennonite influence, because just a little while back we did a story on the first Sunday in August, just a mile or two up the road at the Mock Meeting House,
Okay.
which has inscribed on the side of it 1775, which they believe is an original piece of graffiti, if you will, that maybe time stamps the house a little bit. But interesting that they're all right here along 211. And one thing that I know a lot of folks have been watching as they come along 211 is the uncovering of the stone, which is so cool to look at this stone house and think back how far it goes. Again, before this was even a country here.
Right.
And now you're putting the stucco back on top of it. Tell me why you had to do that.
Well, sir, when we started doing this, we originally thought we could save some of the stucco that was pre-existing to the house. But once we started tearing into it, all of it was just powdered. So every time we hit a rock or whatever, all the stucco fell completely off. That, and we then had to remove it completely. So that's why you see the limestone here. So now we have to go back and we have to purge the rocks in between. And we have to put on 4 different layers of stucco to get it back to the normal color that it was.
Well, that is quite a process.
That is quite the process. We are working all off DHR guidelines, so that's going to give us...
DHR, Department of Historic Resources.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. So that's... We are following their guidelines, and that's why we have dated it back, and that's why the stucco had to be replaced. We could not keep the limestone on there.
Well, I know that I saw on here that you've brought in some great architects from Stanton and from Norfolk that are working on this. And as you just mentioned, not only you got to follow the stipulations of the Virginia Department of Historical Resources, but also you're going by the guidelines in the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation. And it's being reviewed at both the federal and state level. The National Park Service has been involved in some level.
Yes.
How difficult? Now, I know a little bit about construction, and I know when that building inspector comes around that a lot of the contractors don't like to see them visit the site. But under these types of requirements, how hard has it been to meet those?
In the grand scheme of things, it's gone very smoothly. We have a very good team that we work with. The general contractor that we hired and all is very familiar with this type of work. The architects that we're using out of Stanton, like you mentioned, this is what they specialize in.
Right.
So they have gave us great guidance and on how to do it and how we need to do it. So the plans and all this that started back in August before we actually even took a hammer or something to this stucco was pretty in detailed, to try to iron out some of that questionable things that we had to do.
Very good. Well, we're going to step inside in just a moment and look at the interior of this house and talk about a few more things that have been done in the rehab of the White House here on the White House farm. And we're also, keep in mind when we go inside that Mr. Sowers was telling me, due to numerous floods over the year that have come over the banks here of the South Fork of the Shenandoah River, that there was almost 3 feet of mud and debris inside of this house when they started that rehab. We're going to take a look inside when we come back in just a moment after a word from our sponsor.
Whispering Pines Assisted Living is now accepting new admissions. Quality care at affordable rates, professionally trained staff, memory support, and short-term respite stays are all offered by Whispering Pines Assisted Living, powered by Valley Care Management, where home and heart meet. Call for a tour today on Leakesville Road in Luray or learn more at valleycaremanagement.com.
Welcome back, everyone. And now we are inside of this structure here called the White House, as we said, built in 1760. And I can't even believe that I'm standing in a structure that's still standing, that's over 250 years old, older than the United States of America. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about, with Mr. Sowers here, about what has needed to be done to get this place looking as good as it does now. And I'm sure when you finish it, it's going to look even better. Of course, as you told me earlier, we don't want it to look brand new. It needs to look old, but some of the stuff y'all have done, we talked about the damaged stucco rather on the exterior of the building. We talked about that earlier. And now you're also going to replace, they came back and put a tin roof on it, I believe, or a metal roof on top, and you guys are going to come back with wood shingles. Is that right?
That is correct. Oak slates are actually, the roof is supposed to start on Wednesday of this week.
And the reason for that is because of historical reasons, right?
Absolutely. Some of the earliest pictures we have is 1929, and that showed the wood shakes on it, and we're putting it back to that time period.
And let's see, now you had something listed on the renovations that I'm not sure what it is. It's called repointing of decorative stone and brick features. What is that?
So some of the repointing on the stone and decorative features is basically replacing the mortar and making it look like new.
Okay.
So where it's smooth and the rocks do not shift and the stucco can adhere to it.
Okay. I had in my head that you were sitting down sharpening the stones or
No.
something. I didn't know what that was. And obviously there's going to be restoration and repainting of the interior walls. That goes without saying. And then refinishing and repair of the pine flooring. And I tell you, that heart pine, I have a feeling, is going to look awful good. But I'm looking down here now and I see concrete. Why did you have to pour these concrete slabs?
So, sir, the reason we had to pour the concrete is pure structural. In the parlor room too, there is a vaulted cellar in there, and we had to put a very intrigued rebar system in there.
Yeah.
That all had to go in a certain place in a certain way per engineer's specs, and then we had to cover it with so much concrete, and we had to put anchors going down and to hold the ceiling up.
Oh, wow.
For the vault. So all this concrete will help stabilize the whole building for hopefully multiple years to come.
So you'll have another layer of wood down, and then the heart pine will go on top of that.
That is correct. We will put little footers down on this, and then we will be able to put the engineered hardwood or heart pine wood down on it.
I cannot wait to see that heart pine once it gets sanded, refinished, and it's going to look awesome.
It's gonna look nice.
Some of the other things that you guys did, cleaning and repair of late federal woodwork details. What is that?
So as you see behind me, this is some of the federal woodworking that came in the remodel that Marie had mentioned earlier. And we will be working with a paint analysis to clean this because there's actually a number of layers of paint under this.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we're going to go in and actually, we've done paint sampling already to show all the different marblings and all that's underneath. So now their next step is to get this paint specialist out here she's going to clean certain spots of it to see exactly how we can preserve it for years to come.
Now, you were talking earlier about, of course, we've said several times already that the house was built in 1760, but there were at least two, I think, major renovations. In fact, it talks about preserving some of the renovations through 3 different periods of this home. Remind me a little bit again about when those renovations were done.
Sure. So the woodwork and the paint that Eric's talking about was done in the 1820s. So all of this molding that you see in this room was probably part of that, the woodwork that they put in. And then the subsequent renovation or kind of addition that they did was in the 1930s to add in the electricity.
Right, that's right. During the electrification era there when everybody was getting their creosote poles at that time. Now, a couple of other things that you all have done. Before I talk about the cellar, and I want to ask a couple questions about the cellar, you were talking about, and I read in the material, where this property, obviously sitting right off, just a little bit off the bank, Kaufman Mill Road is between us and the Shenandoah River, but there have been numerous floods since 1760.
Absolutely.
And this house has seen them all and is still standing, but when you first came in, what was your impressions of what you saw before they started this rehabilitation of what you saw?
It was definitely a little spooky in here. It was very dark. All the windows were shuttered. The floor was very unsafe to walk on. There was holes. There was places where underneath the floor the dirt had been washed away, so you kind of never knew where you were stepping on. And going upstairs, you hear those floorboards creak.
Yeah.
There were these big wasp nests in the windows. It was just like this very spooky experience.
But now you were talking about, you were showing me here on the wall how high the water has gotten in here.
Yes, sir. The water level has been up, it may be hard to tell, but there's a white and a pink line and a blue line right here. And the water has been up here even through the windows.
That's almost tall as you and me.
That is correct, sir. That is correct, sir.
And you said over in the other room, which we're not going to film in today because it's a little bit dark this evening, but you said up to almost 3 feet high, there was debris, mud, and everything.
That is correct, sir. On the north wall, because you got to think the water comes this way.
Okay, right.
On the north wall, there was almost up to the windows, like you said, of mud, different debris with wood stakes and things like that piled up. That's why, unfortunately, we were not able to save or salvage any of the first floor flooring.
Right.
But the second floor we did.
Yeah, we walked up there a little while ago, folks, and that is going to be beautiful. I can't believe how well preserved some of the wooden doors are, and some of the most of the planks of the second floor flooring still look great.
We had people come out, and we were very pleased when we got the results, and we did some of these test runs with what that floor is going to turn out to.
Well, let me ask you this: I know you've had to do some structural things to get this a little bit stronger because it's been through wear and tear. It's been through those floods. The force of that water. I mean, if you had 3 feet of water going through here, how is this house still standing?
That's a great question. There's a couple rumors saying that they came in and they opened up the doors and they opened up the windows to help allow the water to push through. We cannot verify that at this particular time.
Right.
But it's just they just knew how to do things a little different back then. The engineering, when you look at these 2.5 feet walls and then the way it tapers back going all the way up with the rock, it's incredible how they built this thing, and they built it to last, and hopefully what we're doing is going to make it last for another 200 years.
Well, let me ask you about this. Now, we talked about the debris and the 3 foot of mud and debris and then the flooding and all that. How did you even find that cellar? Because you said it's got a barrel vaulted ceiling, so it's got kind of an arch to it. It sounds awesome, but how in the world did you even find it? And then once you got down there, what did you find?
No, the cellar actually was pre-existing. So
okay.
there was an opening where
Right.
we were outside.
Right.
So it was nothing we were not aware of.
Okay.
Now there's been archaeological findings and stuff like that we've had JMU out here come out and dig, and we have found numerous artifacts of small proportion as like Indian and Civil War era and things like that.
And that was part of this rehabilitation, right? Didn't you have some archaeologists out here before you all started the rehab?
Yes, we were really lucky to be working with Carol Nash out of JMU, and she brought out a lot of volunteers from the Archaeological Society of Virginia who came and volunteered their time to sift through a lot of the material we were pulling out when we excavated the cellar stairs.
Very good. Now, I have a couple of questions here that we'll kind of wrap up with, but you know, it is such an old house. It's a unique house. It needed a lot of work. This is a $500,000 rehabilitation that's being done by the Plein family. And, you know, why is it important to save structures like this?
Well, like you mentioned several times, this building is older than the United States. It's part of the history of the valley and the history of, you know, America. And so being able to preserve this for future generations is very important to the Plein family, making sure that it's still going to be here, you know, people can learn from it and experience the history and feel like they're stewards of that as well.
And you know, this is, when we were outside, I was commenting about how beautiful, how well manicured this place is. Do you do this by yourself?
No, sir. I have a group of guys and some very good team members as a part of that.
Approximately how many employees you have?
We only have actually 3 employees,
Keep them busy.
We do keep them busy, but we have outside help with different contractors to help keep maintaining everything.
Very good. Well, I know a lot of people have been very curious as you travel down 211 west of Luray, and some of you may be tempted to drive down here, but we're going to talk with Marie a little bit. You know, this is being rehabbed as a resource for researchers. Of course, archaeologists have been out here digging around. You're going to have maybe some school groups come out, university classes, but it's all going to be by invitation. Is that correct?
Yes. So an invitation is a very, maybe not the right word. You know, if people want to come out here, all they need to do is contact the foundation, and we would be happy to set up a tour or any kind of program that they might want to come into the house and learn about the history.
Well,
but just, you know, on that invitational basis.
Sure. Let's give the folks out there, if they want to contact you, some contact information.
Sure. So we can be reached through our website. It's whfarmfoundation.org. Or you can contact us by phone at 571-358-2098. and we'd be happy to take any requests for tours and things.
And do me one favor, just repeat that email or that website and repeat that phone number for folks.
Sure. It's whfarmfoundation.org, and the phone number is 571-358-2098.
Getting to walk around this beautiful property, work out here. I mean, work is work. I mean, everybody, sweats
Yeah,
and
but
pains.
look at my office.
But I was getting ready to say, what is it like? I mean, does it, when you're out here working on the house and stuff, does it sometimes run through your mind like, man, if these stones could talk?
Oh, absolutely. Every time when we started, particularly when we opened up this particular project that I'm working in here, if the walls could talk or being a part of this, we're all very proud of this project that we're producing. And I think the community will be very proud of what we produce when it's all said and done and finished.
And when it is completed, will there be some sort of ceremony or grand opening, open house? You probably don't have all your plans together because this is an 8 to 12 month project that just started in August, but is there some talk of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we don't have anything finalized on the calendar yet, but as soon as we're able to shore up the timeline, hopefully next summer we'll be able to have an open house or some kind of event where we can invite the community to come and experience, the newly restored building.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Marie Pento and Eric Sowers. Thank you so much for talking together with us today. And we've just been very happy that you gave us the opportunity to come out here and see this wonderful property. So folks, if you like today's episode 88 of Page Valley Livin', make sure you hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to thank Eleanor Arrington for all of her work behind the camera today and in the editing room. And as we end up every episode, we want to remind you to go down to the Page County Animal Shelter and help one of our furry friends find a forever home. For Marie Pento, for Eric Sowers, here, I'm Randy Arrington from the White House Farm saying enjoy that Page Valley living.